but it's got good dialogue, and it's got a good pace to it, and it's got just a world that you can kind of lose yourself in and characters you want to read more about. It's just a super solid superhero comic, man.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Dal, something happened today
at
the store that hasn't happened in a very long time, and I don't know if I can keep owning a store if it happens.
Why?
Well, let me describe the event to you, and you decide if how happy you'd be with it.
Okay.
An older gentleman comes in with a tremendous amount of suitcases and wheeled carts and luggage and accessories.
Okay.
Reeking of cheap cologne.
Okay.
Do you know where this is yet or not?
No. I mean,
that should have been all the clue. Then spends well over an hour and a half digging through things, mainly the half off.
Sure.
I
know that guy.
It's Rio.
Yeah.
Rio's back, Dal.
Yeah.
Rio's back.
I want to say Rio's been in at least one time since the pandemic started.
He was in recently, but I didn't realize it was him because his hair is all gray now.
Oh, okay.
But he still has the same claws and just the horrible smell.
Yeah.
So at about 4 minutes to 5, I walk over. I'm like, "Hey, sir, I just want to let you know that we're going to be closing up soon." Yeah, okay, I know. I heard you on the phone because somebody had called just then and said, "Hey, what time you open till tonight?"
Right.
He didn't get out of the store until 5:15.
Yeah, that's pretty typical Rio.
Yeah, and
it's usually like a 25-minute process.
Like, I'm coming, and then he comes up to the counter and he's just buying discount stuff. Well, it's not true. He's buying one full-price graphic novel and then a bunch of discount stuff, and he's paging through the books he brought up to the counter, page by page to decide.
Yeah,
and then he's like, I bring up 2 books. How much is this? Here's how much. All right, adds another $5 book. How much is it now? It's $5 more. Looks at it. Takes the first $5 book out.
Oh, no.
Goes to walk away. Leave it here, I'll take it. Oh, no, it's just over here. Leave it here. It'll take you too long to walk in to come back.
Yes.
And then even after the transaction is done, and of course it's cash, because that's all he's like, brother's on a budget, pulls out his wallet, digs through it, puts it back, pulls out a completely different wallet, stuffed with cash.
Yeah.
Brother's on a budget. And pays just with 20s, because people only ever pay with 20s anymore.
Yeah.
And then it's the 10 minutes of organizing all of his things. Oh, I forgot to tell you that, he's got his cane, and he's got some shoulder bags with him, but everything else is at the front counter. So when he comes up to the counter and puts the books down, because there's a plastic shield, mercifully, he can't, lean in too close.
Right.
So he had to, step back a little bit, and then he dropped all of the things he was carrying.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I can't have this in my store.
That's understandable.
I mean,
it's been a good 13 years.
I've been almost 13 years. I've been trying, and I hope it shows in the store. But more importantly, I hope it doesn't show. To not be as annoyed by everything.
Sure.
I mean, you can still tell.
Yes.
And Gina can tell, but the people can't tell.
Hopefully.
But with him, I'm like, I cannot hide it.
No.
Cannot hide. Oh, thank you so much for your patience. Glare.
Yeah, please just leave.
Yeah.
It's after 5 o'clock. I'd like to go home.
And I made sure to socially distant, follow him out and lock that door immediately. Because I let Gina go, at 5 o'clock, because that's when we go.
Right. That is when it's
She doesn't have to stay around.
No.
Yeah. I remember the early days of Challengers. There was a day when, it was a Saturday, where Jose Mirqua and Tom Nagovin were in.
Yeah.
And I was there until 6:30.
Goodness.
An hour and a half after we were technically closed, because those guys were just, they like talking and they like shopping.
Sure.
And they both, back then, were buying tons of stuff.
Sure.
Tom still does.
Yeah.
Jose, we lost touch with, as a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So long that we had someone who came in today and said, you guys been here forever. Gina's like, yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, this is my first time here.
But you're here.
Yeah, really like the place and bought nothing.
No, it's okay.
But they know we're here.
That's cool.
And have been here for forever.
All right.
Yeah. Stopping myself from saying what I was about to say.
Okay.
So, I don't know, what is this? 525. Episode 525. I don't really have a lot of things planned for today.
Okay.
So, we'll go with your itinerary.
My what now?
You know, all the notes you take during the week to talk about for the
no.
podcast.
Nope.
Because you take this so seriously.
I do not. And I do not.
And it means the world to you.
No, it does not.
And every time I'm like, Dal, I can't do it today. You're like, no, we're going to record.
It
I
means
insist.
too much to me specifically and the world generally.
So, Dal, we do sale t-shirts every year for the I Love You But I've Chosen Comics sale.
We do. We've literally done one for every sale that we've done.
Yeah, and they are, like, I was going to say, they're fun. They're good to have.
Okay.
They're not necessarily fun to do. It's always an adventure.
Yeah, that's true.
And, you know, there's varying results and people have different favorites and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Consensus for this year's shirt, people love it.
That's great.
The shirts obviously came in. They're being distributed, you know, and anybody who earned one.
Kent was wearing his on Thursday.
Oh, wow. Well, that's probably his only clean shirt.
I hadn't made that connection, but you're probably right.
Club members have them in their boxes.
I take back my fond thoughts.
And anybody who wasn't a club member got a phone call, and they're picking them up.
Neat.
And in fact, a club member was wearing theirs. Wearing theirs today.
Cool.
It was under like a button-down shirt, like I wear them.
Yeah.
And Gina's like, "Oh, that's a great T-shirt." And I looked at them like, "She's not wearing a T." Oh, there it is. There's a little figure popping up.
There it is
from the top button. Yeah, so it's great. And last year, because there was a pandemic, we did something a little bit differently. It was a collaboration between Challengers and Gene Ha.
That's right.
And it was the Keep Reading Comics t-shirt.
It was the second t-shirt we did for the year.
It was the second shirt we did for the year, and it was specifically a fundraiser to help us during hard times.
Yeah, I mean, during the shutdown, like, the whole industry was shut down. There's a lot of uncertainty about what things would look like over the next few months. And even in the near term, it was like, well, we're closed to walk-in traffic, and there's no new books coming out, and oh my God, I don't know how we're going to make money. So Gene was very kind to reach out and you know, ask what he could do as an artist to help stores, and we had suggested back, like, hey, we usually do these, like, sale t-shirts, and people really respond to them, so what if we did... And the suggestion was, like, a generic design that, like, any store could use.
Yeah.
And we ended up using it for a t-shirt.
Full disclosure, that was entirely your idea. It was a good idea.
Oh, okay. I don't remember it that way, but if you say so, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give you the credit you deserve.
Oh, thanks.
I
don't know if I do, but I'll take your word for it. So we had and Gene had come up with a really great design, and he'd done a thing where it was originally like a different slogan, and we were like, hey, we usually say, like, keep reading comics on the podcast. Like, what do you think about, like, using that in? And it worked really well with his design, and he'd reached out to a bunch of different artists about using their characters. So you've got, you know, a whole lot of artists' original creations represented on the t-shirt. And it just came out really great. I think it's a really good design.
So here's my thought. How would you feel about doing a Keep Reading Comics shirt every year?
I would be okay with that. Last year we did it at a very specific time because it was the pandemic.
Well, okay, we did it at a specific time because we did it at the time that he gave it to us.
Right, exactly. I mean, the whole thing came about during the pandemic.
Right, but at the point it was suggested to the point that the art was turned in was a little bit longer than we thought.
Sure.
But so specifically 6 months after the I Love You But I've Chosen Comics shirt.
So not coinciding with any one particular thing?
No, not necessarily, unless you have a better solution. And one of the things about the original Keep Reading Comics shirt was we priced it a little bit higher than we normally do because of the climate, you know, the regular sales climate.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, it was a charity t-shirt, so we were not looking to do this as like a hyper-competitive, you know, bang for your buck so much as like, this, like, with the cost of this shirt, this is what doing this would actually provide something while we're not making any money.
So the point is, if we do this regularly, the shirts won't be that expensive each time.
No, I wouldn't think.
The shirts would be kickstarted as always, so we know how many to make for people.
Yeah.
You know, they'll be pre-ordered basically.
Yeah.
And while we are keen to be talked into rounding up the shirts to an even number by our shirt people, I don't think we'll keep doing that.
No, and I mean, certainly I would caution people that we don't, even when we do an overage, we don't do a ton of sizes and we don't do a long term. Like, it's mostly just in case something goes wrong and we need a few extras, we have them to spare.
Yeah.
So this is very much going to be a print to order sort of situation. You know, when the Kickstarter closes, that's it. That's how many we're making, and that's what people are going to get.
Yeah, but this year, Keep Reading Comics and the Chris Olsen design are shirts that we like. Oh, we'll have more that I was making the boxes to put out this week.
Sure.
So like I don't want to have a box for each shirt.
No, certainly. Yeah.
But specifically this year's, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No,
specifically this year's shirt was cheaper to round up, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah.
Doesn't always. I mean, that's the thing. Like, usually it's just a matter of us submitting an order to our t-shirt company and then going, okay, based on what you're getting, if you go to this number, it costs this much. And then we decide, like, do we want to go to that number?
And we had a larger number of sales shirts this year than ever before. Yeah. So it was easier to get to that number.
Yeah.
I don't expect that the Keep Reading Comics 2021 shirt would make it to that level.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not against it. I think you could also do some interesting stuff if we wanted to do... I hesitate to say like package deals and stuff, but one of the ideas that we'd had originally with Gene's design was like other stores being able to utilize it for like prints or whatever else.
Sure.
And I mean, if we commissioned a design, as in an artist is getting paid for it, and then we can use it on t-shirts or whatever, it would be interesting to do it on like some other stuff. Like you could do one where it's like, hi, you get the t-shirt, or here's a package where you get a t-shirt and the design as like an 8.5 by 11 print, or or here's one where you get the t-shirt and an 8.5 by 11 print and a sticker, like that sort of stuff, or like here's one where it's a button, like being able to use it on different things.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. Like we definitely, based off of my timetable, we have months to plan this.
Yeah, and I mean all of this is very provisional. Like I don't know what all that stuff would cost, but there's a bunch of different places in Chicago that we could go to and say, hey, we want to do this. Like what would it cost? So we could keep that stuff a little bit more internal, or companies that we've dealt with before that do our printing. Yeah. Where we can just say, like, do you also do this?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not against it. Part of me is like, what I would like to do this year is maybe because we're not doing as much for Free Comic Book Day, we would, do the t-shirt like in August or something. But in subsequent years, maybe doing a thing where, we have the design to show off at Free Comic Book Day, and then people can that's when the Kickstarter starts.
Okay.
To kind of publicize it a little more, maybe even do up little postcards where it's like, hey, we're doing this shirt.
I mean,
it's funding on Kickstarter right now. We would even maybe potentially do like a quick 1 hour tease thing for the staff that day.
Oh, I see.
So it'd be like, hey, we're doing this shirt.
I gotcha.
You can go fund it. You can order yours right now. It ships in like a month or two or whatever.
That's a good plan.
So yeah, I mean,
especially since Free Comic Book Day is August this year.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know that we would do it for Free Comic Book Day this year, but maybe. Like I just meant in general doing it for having it start coinciding with the start of Free Comic Book Day. Like, but the shirt would come out later in the year.
Okay.
Because I don't know. Like we talked about it. Maybe this is segueing too much into another topic.
I mean, if you look on the board,
I did. We were talking about even with Free Comic Book Day moving to August this year, there's still so much uncertainty about vaccinations and about social distancing and about kind of what the most effective way to deal with at that time, probably still ongoing pandemic, that we weren't planning on doing a lot of things for Free Comic Book Day because we don't really want a huge crowd.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. I guess we could do it coinciding with Free Comic Book Day this year and then see how it goes.
We don't have to do anything. Like, in the future, if it is a local artist who designs it, we can make sure to have them on that day and maybe do, like, have prints for it or whatever.
Sure.
But we wouldn't do that this year because pandemic.
Yeah, that's true.
But regardless, if staff is wearing the shirts...
Yeah. And also it solves the problem for me because one of the things that we always try to have staff in Challengers t-shirts whenever possible.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the problem is the shirts that they're in are also the shirts that we're giving to customers. And customers, God bless them, wear those to Free Comic Book Day.
Sure. You want to make sure that they stand out as staff.
Yeah, exactly. So something where, like, all of the staff, except for me because I'll be in a suit.
And myself.
But you could get away with, like, a t-shirt under a dress shirt and a vest.
Yeah, but no one would see it.
It's true. But, yeah, the staff...
I knew it. You want me to look bad. You want people to not think of me as somebody who wears
Incorrect.
a shirt and tie and a vest at all times.
To look approachable. And I want me to look not approachable. But, having the staff all in one specific shirt that is then exclusive to them for this event would help me out a lot because I like the visual of, like, look for the person wearing this shirt and they will be able to help you out. So, yeah, maybe we could look to that for August. Yeah, I know I like the idea.
And one of the differentiating factors between I Love Video Chosen Comics and Keep Reading Comics is color.
Yeah, for sure. It's a black shirt.
It's a black shirt.
For Keep Reading Comics, it's a black unlimited shirt in the sense that anyone can buy as many of them as they want.
Yeah.
Red shirts you got to earn. Those are trophies. Yeah, no, I'm fine with it. Not that you would say it right now, but do you have somebody in mind that you'd want to go to for this year's?
Yeah, it was our fallback for last year.
Okay.
For this year's sale.
I don't remember who that was.
Okay.
So you'll have to tell me later.
Fine.
It'll be a surprise to me.
Yeah, I don't ever want to say anything because we've never approached
them. Of course.
them.
Yeah, no, I mean, the last thing I want to do is get people's hopes up on a podcast and then have to go walk it back down the line.
This is someone who is local and who has designed a lot of t-shirts.
Okay.
I also have an artist in mind for next year's I Love You shirt.
Yeah.
It is someone who is no longer local.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
There's definitely someone that we interacted with recently that I thought, maybe them. But then I thought, one, I don't know if their art style necessarily supports it. And two, they're way out of our budget. They're just way out of our budget.
I mean, there's a lot of people that I look at and like, I love their work, but can they design a t-shirt?
Is it a t-shirt that, like, is it an image that we can reproduce on a shirt?
Yeah.
That's going to translate. That said, like, they've done enough weird stuff that I feel like if we went, like, look, this is the palette and this is the medium, I think they could figure out how to do something fun with it.
It was it someone who I sent you a illustration they did just yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is an art style that I would have to be toned down.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they could do it, and I wonder if they would think it would be fun to do.
I think they would.
Yeah. So that may be a thing where, like, later this year we maybe, like, pitch it to them as just like, look, if you're not into this or you don't have the time or whatever, like, don't worry about it. But, we like your stuff. Would you want to do this? So, yeah, maybe then. But, yeah.
Okay.
That was someone I was thinking about because they were just in recently. I went, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We've never, but now maybe.
So, yeah, going back to what Dal was saying about Free Comic Book Day, while it is still on the schedule for the comic book industry, we're not still super comfortable with the idea of it. We're not going to not do it.
Yeah, there will still be free comic books. You can still show up, and honestly, I feel like August is probably maybe a slightly better day to be standing outside. We've had incredibly good luck on Free Comic Book Days the last, 13 years basically, where it's always been, like, sunny and not terrible weather.
We had a rainy one.
Did we? Okay.
It was the year that the film crew was in filming.
Oh, jeez.
So it was even more hectic.
But in general, like, that's the thing I always fret about because, first Saturday in May in Chicago,
it could still be snowing.
Yeah, we've had really great luck where it's like, it's like 60 degrees and sunny the whole day, great. But there's been, like, the first Friday in May is like 40 degrees and it's like, actually, oh my God, what's happening?
I think you're misremembering because you don't have to stand outside.
Well, so
out of the last 3 years, there have been a couple where it's like in the shade, it's cold, and our cosplayers are like, I chose the wrong outfit for this day.
But this is the thing, like, it always starts that way. Like, I think there's been a bunch of Free Comic Book Days where, like, when we get there at like 9 or 10 in the morning, not that great. But then once it gets to like noon, 1 o'clock, sun's high in the sky, super bright, not too cloudy, no real breeze. It becomes a really nice, like, spring day. But there is that kind of transitional period of a couple hours. But August is way more reliable. Obviously, it can rain, but it's probably not going to snow. Probably going to be warm.
I like that. As good of a day it's going to be. It's like, oh, we're not going to have cosplayers.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, we'll definitely be giving out comics, and we'll be ordering some of the free Comic Book Day comics that have recently been announced. As always, not all of them, and we'll be giving those out. But we're not going to do cosplayers. At this point, we're not expecting to be doing sketching and signing artists.
Yeah.
That's a thing where, basically, the long and short of it is that artists are probably the last people who are going to get vaccinated because of their age and their inessential nature, much like Challengers itself.
Staff members, yeah. Hey, one of our staff is fully vaccinated by now.
That's true, but their full-time job makes them more essential.
Yeah.
So the idea of asking artists to, sit and sketch for strangers is a thing that I don't expect us to feel comfortable with that in August, so we're planning on not doing it. That said, free comics, we'll still have those, so people can come out and grab those. This will be a different conversation Patrick and I will have down the line, but we'll probably be enforcing a little bit more of a limit on how many people are in the store. Free Comic Book Day is our busiest, most crowded day of the year, and that is not acceptable to us in 2021.
No, definitely not.
So the lines may be a little longer, so it's August, bring a bottle of water or something. Yeah, but yeah, we are doing Free Comic Book Day this year. That is happening in the comics industry in August. Is it the first Saturday in August?
I don't think so. I thought it was later. Okay. I want to say the 25th or the 15th. Okay. You can see if either one of those is a date that is.
I'm just going to look up Free Comic Book Day 2021 and they'll tell me.
Oh, that's fine. That'll work as well. They released the artwork for their shirt this year, and it's Scotty Young. Yeah. I think it's real fun, and it's actually
August 14th.
Real similar. No, I said either the 15th or the 25th.
Okay.
You must be wrong.
I must be.
I'm just reading your
I will delete my Google
Is
app.
it a Friday? That's weird.
Weirdly, it still has a Saturday, May 1st, Free Comic Book Day 2021 in the United States.
Whoops.
I might get feedback on that. Let's see. I assume August is a Saturday. I'd be shocked if it weren't.
Well,
August
I was saying
14th is the second Saturday in August.
The Scotty Young design is real similar to the brand new bookmarks we got in.
Oh, yeah.
That I am teasing people by telling about because they're not out yet. They won't be out for a while.
Do you not want to say who the artist is?
No, I'm getting up there, but I'm just saying.
That's why I didn't want to jump ahead.
If you appreciate it, if you come in looking for it, you won't get it yet. But it's Greg Schiegel who did Pix, and he did a real fun Grimjack for me.
Sure, and the most important thing is he's a very big Power Pack fan.
And he is responsible for designing 3 of the masks that I've been wearing through pandemic. The Doctor Doom face.
Nice.
The Thing face.
Good one.
And the Kirby dots.
Oh, those are good ones.
Yeah, those are all Greg's from his TeePublic or whatever site. Mm-hmm. If I remember, I'll link it. I'll write it down. I can never find it, though, because I think it's Hatter Mad Entertainment is his page on that site, and I can never remember if it's Hatter M or Mad Hatter or...
Sure.
Like, you can't search by store, you have to search by design.
Yeah.
And his designs are all named a little bit differently. They need to be. So anyway, Greg has a couple of different properties that he's working with right now. He had Pix, which we still have Pix graphic novels in Sidekicks. And he's got one called Superheroes, which is it's all superheroes, but they're all animals.
Yeah.
So he's got some coloring books that are available that feature the characters. And when we went to him and said, "Hey, we want you to do a bookmark," he's like, "Hey, do you want to do the?" It was Paws, the Professional Animal Wrestling Syndicate, or Superheroes. So we went Superheroes because it's a little more kid friendly.
Yeah,
but he gave us his whole, here's the list of all the here's designs of all the characters.
Sure.
Why don't you pick a hero and a villain, and then I'll do it based off of that.
Yeah.
So you and I went over all of them and could not agree. So I let you pick the hero and I picked the villain.
Okay.
And Greg was excited because he did a lot of the character designs in black and white because it's a coloring book at first. Mm-hmm. So the villain, whose name I can't remember, but is a kangaroo. He's like, "Oh, I've never colored this character before. I got to figure out what the color scheme is."
Ooh.
Yeah, so that bookmark, and it's got a new back as well. Not necessarily new illustrations, but new versions of Dal and Patrick that we've never used on a bookmark before.
Yeah, I usually use it for my email avatar.
Same. I use it for mine as well, but mine, not yours.
That's
my
helpful.
picture and my email.
Yep.
Yeah.
That helpful.
And those were drawn by Chris Iliopoulos.
Yeah.
Who, man, when I go back and look at events or when Facebook memories come up, it's like, wow, he signed with us 9 years ago.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
Joelle Jones, her time with us was started 6 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Right? That's forever ago. That's there's
a
three
whole lot
properties
of,
ago.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of people that when the pandemic is a thing of the past that I'd love for us to just reach out to and be like, hey, come out again. We'll figure something out. We'll figure out a thing it's for.
Sure. Yeah, it's amazing how that there's still coming into a year of this.
Yeah.
Monday marks a year. The day this podcast goes up, it'll be a year since the actual Chicago city shutdown started.
Jeez.
And it just feels, everything feels like it's still so recent, but forever ago, if that makes sense.
Yeah, one of and a ton of people have mentioned this. One of the things that became very strange about the pandemic is how quickly people sort of acclimated to it. How once you get past the initial uncertainty and a lot of the conflicting information, everyone just sort of I guess I do puzzles now or whatever. It's hard to forget to wear a mask when you leave the house, or
for us,
yes, or you limit the trips you make places, or you don't even think about things like movie theaters because you just haven't been to one in 12 months. Yeah, for me, the idea of it not being an issue is so almost unfeasible. I can't think of what it's going to feel like to go back to 2019, basically. That feels so foreign to me.
I keep imagining it'll just be no different, but I don't know that I'm going to vary up my routine too much from right now.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, as I've been getting older, I've been more reluctant to socialize as much as I used to.
Yeah.
So the pandemic was a great way to be like, I can't do anything. There's a pandemic.
Coronavirus. What can I do?
But now when it's over, I'll be like, I would rather just go home.
Yeah.
I'm totally in that phase now where it's like, oh, I just want to go home.
Well, and I mean, not to make this about the comics industry or the business of it on a podcast, but that's something we've kind of theorized a little bit, or at least speculated on. We've seen a lot of customer behavior change in the last year. Frequency of visits, or a amount of product purchased on a trip, or online orders or whatever. And it's is this people's routine now, where that's just what they're going to do? Or does that change again? Once
let
people
me
can make more
look at it
visits
this
and
way.
stuff.
Now,
what happens to our operating hours?
I was doing writing something for Heidi McDonald for The Beat this week.
Okay.
And in typical me fashion, I had to keep stopping and starting. And you lose your train of thought. And I had an outline in my head, but then I kind of jumped around a bunch.
Sure. But isn't she likely to pick it apart anyway? Isn't that how these things usually work? She'll pick key phrases?
I think, I don't know. I've never done this for her before. Okay. And I think I went into way too much detail on some stuff, but it was a very vague and overarching, how has the last year been? Mm-hmm. What have you done? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I meant to say but I didn't was, I always have this fear, specifically related to the pandemic, but it's always been there before, that the other shoe is going to drop as far as customer purchasing goes.
Sure.
We've been lucky that people have, A, chosen to support small local businesses like us,
yep,
and B, really wanted to catch up and read a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And I kept waiting for the point where people are like, well, either I've read enough, I've bought too much, or the world is open up enough where I can spend the money that I used to spend on restaurants, bars, trips.
That second one is where that's my main...
Well, sure.
I don't want to say fear, because I want people to get back to their lives.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I was realizing that as far as commerce goes, nothing has been closed off to people. You can buy anything you've wanted to buy.
That's true.
This whole time. It's just the social activities that would resume.
Well,
The trips, the airline costs,
Sure, but that's the thing, though, is that, I mean, not that I'm an economist or not that I'm anyone who's that dialed into the entire market, but I mean, what we were seeing was basically people saying, like, I'm just sitting at home, so I might as well get comics to read because that's something I can do at home.
Yeah.
Like, we noticed it in, like, basically the couple months of the shutdown for the industry. Everyone kind of caught up on all their Netflix stuff, and with no new movies coming out, with no new TV shows being produced, eventually that stuff started to peter out, and people got really sick of trying to find some new random thing to watch. So they're like, well, let me just read more comics, because that's a thing, again, I can do in the safety of my home, I can do by myself. It's better than just watching more crap on Netflix or Hulu or whatever. But that's because there was really nothing else they could go out and do. So it wasn't so much the money being spent on comics instead of the money being spent on something else, but more just the time. And that's the thing that I have a worry about as far as how we're structuring our business now, and the expectations we have of what product is going to sell and how much we're going to make in a week, and how that could change when suddenly people are like, and because we've seen this before, like, people don't stop buying books necessarily because they're bad or because they've read them all. They stop buying books because they don't have time to read them.
Yeah. And
that's the thing that's likely to happen once everyone's vaccinated, everything's reopened, people don't have to worry about all the different things that go into the pandemic, is they'll end up making less trips to the shop, and they'll end up buying less books when they're there, because they're going to movies, they're going to concerts, they're going on trips. It's not that they can't afford it, it's just that they have no time to read them, so they might as well just wait until they've got time, and then they'll read them. And then the trick is they maybe don't have time.
I have this weird dichotomy of wanting to see specific bands live again, but not wanting to go to concerts. It's weird.
Why?
Well, I mean, I'm an old man and don't enjoy other people at concert venues.
Yeah, no,
plus
that's always been me.
Coronavirus. Hey, can you do me a favor?
What's up?
Can you get out your phone and open a web browser and hand it to me? There's something I need to look up for a section on this podcast that I forgot to do ahead of time.
Okay.
And I can't use my phone because it's recording. Thanks very much. Mm-hmm. I was going to try to sign language this to you, but I figured I would never be able to get to it. But I was also hoping that you'd keep talking.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so obviously there's this push and pull of, like, wanting to see everything back to normal, and then feeling like,
thank you.
If it gets back to normal, does that mean our business goes back to what it was in 2019, where it wasn't as good?
Yeah, right?
Because it's better now. Like, despite everything going on in the world, our business is stronger now maybe than it literally ever has been. And the idea of,
of that only being because of a pandemic while people are...
Is this a bubble? And is that bubble going to burst?
Yeah.
Or, again, is this... The hope is that this is, letting people kind of restructure things in their lives or reprioritize what's important to them, and realizing, like, oh, no, I really like comic books. So even as things reopen, maybe they're less inclined to do the other things that were keeping them from reading the books that they're enjoying.
Right.
And instead saying, no, I want to read the books I want to read, and then when I've got time, I'll go to the movies, or I'll go to a concert, or whatever. Or I'll take books with me on a trip. Like,
I mean...
hope. That's the hope.
Using that equation, we've been far ahead of the curve, because comics first, and then everything else.
Yeah, exactly. We made the right decisions in our lives.
I mean, I've always thought that. But talking to other retailers, the consensus is the bubble's not going to burst. It'll deflate a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder. Well,
yeah.
It like a lot of things, it kind of depends on the books that are coming out. And all it takes is a few months of, like, oh, these new releases are not clicking with people, or that event didn't work, or whatever. And we'll see where it goes. Obviously, DC's somewhat throttled production is not great, I think, for stores that, not us specifically, but stores in general that look at DC as 30% or more of their monthly income.
Are you trying to make segues based off of the whiteboard?
Oh golly, was I?
I mean, you kind of are. I don't think we're ready to go to that one next.
I can't even see what that second word is, so I have no idea what it's supposed to be.
Not maximums.
Oh, okay. Oh, sure.
Yeah. But I've had this feeling for almost a year now, like this can't hold, and it's been holding.
Not just a year, 13 years. Go on.
No. Only of, like, oh, things are good, but, like, sales are good.
That's
they're
true.
Go down.
For 12 years, you didn't have to have that worry.
Exactly.
It was not a problem.
Exactly. And we say this all the time, but it's more and more evident each passing week, we're still 6 months away from not having to pay for the space in River North that we used to have a second store in. And if that wasn't over our heads, and if Upstart wasn't part of the equation, things would be significantly different.
Yeah, there's a chunk of change every month that's just going right out the door for nothing.
There's a lot of people recently, because it's a buyer's market, like people that we know are buying houses.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, man.
It's definitely something I would... I mean, I was actually thinking about this today. I mean, it's...
Weeping openly.
No, it's the thought of, like, maybe end of this year. Maybe that's a discussion that we have about what that looks like and how that happens. Because there's different things that you can do. And certainly, like... But it's only a conversation worth having once we're not sending thousands of dollars out the door every single month. That's thousands of dollars that can go towards other things. Useful things.
Sure. We spent a significant amount of time this last week working with a professional in helping us apply for a PPP loan, because we didn't do anything first round. We didn't think we were eligible. Things have relaxed a little bit. But there's a lot that needs to be done because of the way our industry and our business is run.
The way Challenger specifically is structured makes it more difficult. Not impossible, but difficult.
Sure, but a lot of these things are... It's even like nowadays when somebody says, why do you love Captain America so much? And my answer is, I just always did. It's like, why do you do your things this way? Oh, because when we started, the people we took advice from said to do that.
Yeah.
So we've always done that.
Yeah, I mean, that was, talking to that professional today, that came up again because it's like, maybe 13 years on is the point where, we could have someone completely different, take a completely new look at how we do everything and say, okay, well, this is maybe a better way to be doing all of these background things. Because when we came into starting Challengers, it was something where we knew the industry backwards and forwards, and we knew how to run a store, but like starting a business was something where we were kind of relying on a few people that it worked out. We're still here, but it's definitely people where like maybe we could have gotten better ground floor advice, or maybe if we had done more day one research, we would have had a stronger spine to our business that now...
Yeah, I mean...
13 years on, it's like, we should maybe look at that.
I bought some books in the beginning on how to, incorporate a business in Illinois and things like that, which are very dry and hard to read through. But again, like, we knew what the options were in front of us, but we were guided by professionals in the fields, like, not comic professionals.
No.
We were, I don't know why I'm not saying accountant. Our accountant, the accountant we had for the first 11 years was the person that guided us in all those decisions. Yeah. And we didn't question a lot of them. No. But they all made sense at the time. We just didn't realize that we shouldn't still be doing things that way. Yeah. And none of them are bad or detrimental.
Right. Again, we're still here.
It's not like we're like one of the things we were talking to this current financial guy about, like, all the decisions are like, look, all the decisions that we like, the way we do things, we're not doing them because we're trying to hide anything or we're doing something under the table. This is the way we were taught to do it. Like, we're not trying to trick anybody. Right. So...
If there's a better way to do it,
if there's steps we need to take to do it so it's more above board, like, that's the wrong way to do it. That like to say that we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything. No. Underboard.
If there's a more straightforward way of doing things, we're happy to do it that way. Yeah. That was just not the way it was
presented to us. Yeah. And again, this was a business professional who had many clients, and we had no reason to not take their advice.
Yeah, I mean, they'd been doing this for way longer than we had, so if they're like, this is the way you guys should do it, we're like, okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, they knew everything about what we were doing. Yeah. So, big thanks to Charlie Shee for this introduction and getting the ball rolling for us with this particular gentleman who's been very helpful.
When I was talking to the professional, I had said, Charlie vouched for you, and we thought, if Charlie thinks he's a good guy, then he's definitely worth working with. And the guy goes, well, I wouldn't say I'm a good guy. And I said, well, you tricked Charlie, and that's the important part.
Did your number come out to be my number as well, or is your number different?
I think my number was different.
Was it? I assume your number was up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
It is several days of question marks, and then we'll see if it happens, or if it doesn't happen, or if they need more, whatever, or we go to somebody else, or I don't know.
Yeah, right. But I mean, he's optimistic, so
I guess, yeah. I mean, his analysis at the end of it was very like, this should work, but we've never needed it to work this way, so I don't know for sure if it's going to.
But also, if it doesn't, we have all these options.
Right, exactly.
I do admit, when I got up this morning, it was like, I don't know, 6:30, and there was an email from one of the companies saying, "Hey, we need more information." I'm like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
But it was super easy to do.
Right. Yeah, I told him that in general with these situations, with financing or funding or loans or any of that stuff, we're so used to hearing no that we kind of just accept it.
Yeah.
So it's nice to work with someone who's like, "No, we can figure out a way to get to yes on this," and that's nice. Like that's why we like working with professionals, because to us it's so Byzantine and it's so daunting that like the frustration factor is like, I mean, even with Charlie's friend, you had emailed them and we didn't get a response, and you were just like, you were ready to give up right then.
Yeah.
You were like, forget it. Like, it's just one more guy it's not gonna work out or whatever.
I honestly took it as this person might have just been paying their friend lip service and didn't really want to do it for us.
Sure.
And, you know, because we're used to a lot of professionals being like, what, a comic store?
Yeah.
So I'm like, look, and I did have a backup.
Mm-hmm.
I had somebody else that I'd planned on going to. I just hadn't gotten around to it.
Sure.
And it's our current accountant's father who does a lot of the stuff as well.
Yeah.
Which is why I was then a little bit worried when we had to have this guy talk to her.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want her to be thinking, why didn't they just use my dad?
This is business that's going to somebody else now.
Yeah. But no, they're, in fact, I reached out to our accountant and said, hey, thanks so much for doing this. And the guy you're working with complimented you, which he did. He told me that she knew exactly what he needed and was fun to deal with. And I said that it took me aback because in 13 years, no one's ever complimented our accountant before. So I didn't know how to react.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that she knew we appreciate it. And then I said, bill us for the extra time.
Oh, for God, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
None of this is backroom favors. This is
work.
Yeah, we want this to be above board.
Yeah.
I keep saying above board. Again, we're not below board.
Yeah.
We're not under board right now.
Nothing underhanded is happening.
What's better? Under board or below board?
Neither.
I mean, if it's above board, it's below board.
Yeah, but
how come it's not one or the other? Why is it underhanded or above board? Why is it not above handed and under board?
They're just not said.
I also want to thank Atom Bang Freeman for telling us that the phrase "pulling out all the stops," which we were referencing with WandaVision a couple episodes ago, refers to playing an organ.
Oh.
Because there are stops in the pipes that prevent the air from going through and holding the notes, but when you pull them out, that is how the air travels through to create all the noise that goes through like a pipe organ.
Interesting.
Yep. So thank you, Atom. We were talking about business on a comics industry business podcast.
Yes.
And last year, I hit 30 years as a comic book retailer.
Congrats.
Thanks. It is a thing that, it happened.
It did.
But normally, when you look at people who've done a thing for 30 years, if it's in a movie, you think like, oh, that guy's retiring, he gets his gold watch or whatever. Usually it's a much older person.
Sure.
And obviously I'm still at this, and I still think I'm capable of doing this job.
I'd agree with that.
I've lost a step. I'm a little surlier, if that's even a word.
It is.
But I can still do this. And recently there have been a couple of people in different industries who had similar milestones,
Okay.
but after a different period of time, which doesn't make any sense, so I'll just say it. Recently, Ed Mraz from the Mutiny passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
You know the Mutiny.
I do.
Just
Right up the street.
further north on Western from us. It did close down in 2018.
Yeah.
But he ran the Mutiny for
30 years?
30 years.
Whoa.
And created a huge community and gave a lot of people their stars. Hannibal Buress used to do comedy there.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. And because like the Mutiny would take any band.
Sure.
And while he wasn't the band booker, it was his club, and he cultivated that atmosphere.
Nice.
And he grew a whole community, and it's a way, in a larger way than we can do it.
Sure.
Because way more people drink than read comics.
That's true.
You can read comics and drink,
Yes.
but you don't necessarily have to read comics if you drink.
Sure.
Guido Nardini from Club Lago wrote one of the greatest tributes to Ed that I read, and it was just about how much he touched his life and how basically the Mutiny was Guido's Lago, which is weird to say because Guido owns Lago, but
True.
what Lago is to me, Mutiny was to him.
That's nice.
And like Ed met every single girl that Guido ever dated, kind of thing. Like I can't even like I don't remember a lot of the people I've brought to Lago.
Sure.
It was a wonderful, wonderful tribute, and the outpouring of people talking about what he meant to the community and to them personally,
Yeah.
the people that work with him for so long, and it's amazing. But this guy was also like late 60s.
Okay, sure.
So obviously he did something else.
Sure.
Also near to my heart, a woman named Jerry Miller recently just died.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And she was responsible for Metal Edge magazine.
Oh.
And Metal Edge magazine was exactly that. It was a magazine
Made
all
of
about the hair metal industry.
metal. Oh, okay.
And it started mid 80s, like I want to say, I don't know, 84 maybe.
Okay.
And it stopped publication in 2009, which, I mean, internet killed it.
Sure. Like
But-
most magazines. Yeah.
Right. When I was in college, that thing was a Bible to me.
Sure.
I bought it at the Jewel in DeKalb often. I won a subscription to Faces Rocks magazine, but that wasn't as good.
Sure.
And then I would buy Rip magazine, but I always bought Metal Edge. And she championed bands that became huge deals mainly because of her championing them.
Okay.
I mean, it was a different time,
Sure.
but her magazine closed roughly around the time we opened our store.
Sure.
And it was amazing to look at someone who devoted her life to what she believed in, and that was hair metal.
Nice.
Obviously, a big, not a passion of mine, it's the wrong word, but something I love a lot as well.
Sure.
And then you look at Jerry and you look at Ed, and these people that gave their lives to their industry,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's a smaller scale because, we're not creating comic artists.
No.
We are lucky enough to work with people like
But
Andrea Bell and Stephanie Mydad, who each had graphic novels come out in the last 2 weeks.
yeah, for sure.
Andy did our business cards.
Yeah.
Steph did all the design work for Blue, as well as a bookmark for us.
Yep.
I meant to say business cards. Did I say business cards when I said Andy?
I think you did.
Okay. But these are artists that we've reached out to numerous times when we needed help. But like they're making it big, and we know them.
Yeah, that's nice.
We're not making it big for them.
Oh, no.
Joelle Jones is a huge name.
Yeah.
We've liked her from the beginning.
Yeah.
But because she was talented, we did not discover or do anything for her.
No, that's true.
We happily champion the people that we think deserve extra attention.
Sure.
But it's not to the scale that Metal Edge magazine did.
Yeah.
And we're not reaching as many people as Ed Mraz did. But I look at it as like those two people meant so much to a lot of people in their industries.
Yeah.
And I hope that's what we are as well.
Sure, that'd be nice.
I mean, it's the kind of thing you'll never really know.
Oh God, no. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm okay not knowing.
Yeah, but it's a.
But no, I mean, to your other point, like, I could definitely see this being the last job I ever have. I'm okay with that.
Sure.
I like what I do. I like the industry. I like Challengers as a store. There's not really a thing that I look at and I go, oh, I'd rather be doing that than Challengers. Or if Challengers was only this, I'd be more happy. Like, no, I'm pretty happy with it.
I mean, I'm sure everybody in their life has done the, if I won the lottery talk, but we've even said, like, yeah, if we win the lottery, we're not leaving the store.
Well, I mean, it depends on how much money. But even then, like, even the fantasies of, like, oh, if it was a crazy, like, do whatever you want for the rest of your life money, like, it wouldn't be working, that's for sure. I've worked my entire adult and teen life. I'm okay not working at a certain point, but I would still mean, like, I would want the store to be taken care of. Like,
Right.
There's never a point to be like, I just leave town. Like, no, man, I care about the store and I care about the people who shop there, and I would want there to be some continuity to that. But just, I mean, you know, in real life, yeah, I mean, my fondest hope is that the store continues to make enough money to sustain itself and us. And that's all I'm really looking for.
And for each of us to, at some point, to buy something to live in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, like, I'm setting aside the things that we've always talked about, where it's like, if only the store was doing a little better, or the finances made a little bit more sense, or there weren't these other drags on our finances, and, like, there was more profit. And then, you know, yes, I would like my standard of living to be slightly better. That's the thing that came up today when talking to that business professional, is that, you know, it's 13 years and it's great that the store is still going, but I mean, I didn't expect my quality of life to be here 13 years after Challengers had opened.
Yeah.
But the day-to-day of it, like, I like the store. I like going into the store. I like what we do. I like the people who come in and buy comics. I mean, there's things that frustrate me, obviously. You could pick any podcast and you'll hear us complain about some aspect of the industry. But I do like it. I mean, I literally would not want to do anything else. There's no other job I would want than the one I have.
Also, quick sidebar. How boring would this podcast be if every week is just us saying, here's what's good this week about life in general? I don't mean recommending.
I don't know if we could even do a full episode.
Right?
They would be 14-minute episodes, and they would be a lot of pauses. But no, like, I do like what I do for a living, and I would like to do it indefinitely.
Well, I think you're very good at it.
Thanks, man. You too.
Thanks. Since I just said, here's what we like, last week we ended before you could talk about some of the DC books you read.
Oh, gosh.
And since then, we've each read
Some more comic books.
new stuff. I want to start by mentioning a book that I put in this week's email newsletter.
Alien.
Time Before Time from Image Comics. It's written by Declan Shalvey and someone whose name I can't remember.
Oops.
And drawn by someone whose name I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it. I've gotten to read the first 4 issues,
Oof.
which is great
Yeah.
to know that you can read 4 issues, and each issue leaves me wanting more.
Great.
Which, yeah. And actually, like, I'd read... Declan sent me the first one. Sent us the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I read it and got back to him. And Image had already sent us the first 3, but I hadn't realized that.
Uh-huh.
But Mitchell from All-Star, whom we will beat in the international sales battle for Better Ray Bill.
How have we not already beaten them?
I mean, I feel like we have.
It's only a
just,
technicality.
It's not, yeah. He's
Well,
like, hey, here's the first 3. So then I talked to Declan. I'm like, hey, I read the first 3, but now I hate that I have to wait that much longer till 4. He's like, okay, here's 4. I'm going to stop saying that,
Yeah,
otherwise...
Because now I got to wait 6 months until 5
Exactly,
comes out.
exactly.
No.
Yeah, it's a very fun book.
That's great.
It is basically rich people getting criminals to hide them in time.
Yeah, Image's pitch was Looper meets Saga.
Yeah. I
sounds
really enjoyed
pretty
it.
interesting.
I think that people should give it a look when it is available. But now, do you want to talk more about DC books?
Sure, I read some DC books. The one from last week, I want to say, was probably Nightwing, which I really enjoyed.
Nightwing was so good.
I had a really fun time with it. Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo are a really good team. They obviously did Suicide Squad, and they did Injustice before that. Suicide Squad was tricky because it's a huge cast. There's a lot of stuff they were trying to do with it. Nightwing is a lot more chilled out. It's just really about Nightwing. His status quo now post-Joker War. It's him. It's a super back to basics Nightwing in all the best ways. Yeah, it's just a really well constructed book. The art's great. The story's fun.
I think that the art has taken a lot more chances. I think he's opening up his scope based off of Suicide Squad stuff.
Sure, I can see that.
The covers are super fun designing.
Yeah, but I mean, I still find the character designs and the panel layouts easy to understand. There's never a point where I'm like, I don't know what's happening in this book, which is a thing that I thought a couple times in something we'll talk about in a second.
I just want to point out that this is the point in DC's post Future State publishing where every book except for Batman has a new creative team and a new direction.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily starting over. Some of them are, like Green Lanterns. Everything else is just keeping the numbering for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, Nightwing is very much, the current issue is reacting to the last 25 plus issues of that book and what's been going on. Like, they reference stuff. And it even draws further back to characters from the original Chuck Dixon run. Some villains from there are showing back up to let you know, like, they want to make a Nightwing book, not like a Nightwing book where he's X, Y, or Z. And
there's a lot of comparisons to the Fraction Aha run of Hawkeye.
Sure. He gets a new dog, and he owns an apartment building. So, like, yeah, a little bit. But in general, it's really strong, and Tom Taylor, as always, is finding a lot of interesting ways to tell just good meat and potato superhero stories. Like, it's not the Tom King thing, not to cast aspersions on a guy who I actually really like, where there's got to be some formalistic thing that's going on that's distracting from the story he's telling. Like, Tom Taylor just tells a comic book story. He writes it like a superhero comic book. But it's got good dialogue, and it's got a good pace to it, and it's got just a world that you can kind of lose yourself in and characters you want to read more about. It's just a super solid superhero comic, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to describe it in a way that doesn't, like, try and inflate it into something more than it is. It's just a really good monthly superhero comic, and I think if you're looking for that from DC, I don't think you'd go wrong with Nightwing.
Nope.
I read some stuff from this week. I don't know if you've read any of this week's, the upcoming DC comic books.
Yeah. The only thing I haven't read is Detective, but feel free to talk about it.
So I read Detective.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I like the story. I have not been reading Batman because I have not really been too interested in what James Tynion's doing over there, despite really liking his detective stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
The Batman stuff, I just was not interested in what he was doing, and I have not been angling to get more of that. So,
Dale, it took 58 minutes of recording. There's the Robert Burns text.
How nice. I'm glad he could hold off a little bit. Don't worry, Robert, I'll be quick. The Marco Tamaki story is solid, and the Dan Mora designs are good. The tricky thing with the Dan Mora stuff is that some of his line work is a little thin, and it's a little difficult sometimes to make out some details.
Okay.
And some of his panel layouts...
Before you even said thin, I was going to say a little thin.
Little thin.
Yep.
Some of his page designs, his panel layouts, like especially some double-page spreads, it's a little difficult to see what's going on. So it doesn't communicate some of its ideas too well. But that said, I still like his artwork, and I think it's a solid team. It just was not... Like, as someone who was so excited about what they had done on that Detective 1027, I was looking for this thing to be like a home run, and instead it's like, it's a solid Batman book. Like, if you're not reading Batman, you should read this one. If you are reading Batman, I guess you should read this one too.
Does that one have any specific ties to Future State, since that was the creative team?
It doesn't so much as it's still following the whole, like, Mayor Nakano thing and his anti-vigilante plans.
Sure. Can I just say how, I mean, no offense to... I don't assume that story was necessarily created by Marco Tamaki, but I'm tired of that.
The anti-vigilante stuff?
Yeah, we have it going on in DC and Marvel simultaneously.
That's the main storyline in Batman.
Yeah.
There's a Robin backup that's the second part of a Robin backup that started in the newest issue of Batman.
And leading into his
new book.
Series,
it's a two-parter that kind of sets up what that is.
Yeah.
Which was a book that I'm like, this should be fun. Like, I'm looking forward to it a little bit. But they introduce on the last page of Detective in the backup.
Yeah.
Like who the other character that's going to be in the Robin book was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, now I'm real into it.
All right.
I'm real into it. It's a bit of a deep cut, depending on what era of DC Comics you came up with. it's either someone who you're going to be like, wait, who? Or you're going to be like, oh, finally.
Oh, nice.
So it's very in tune with Infinite Frontiers. Whatever you like about DC history, we're going to find a way to put it in here somewhere. I also read Teen Titans Academy.
Yeah.
Which is weird because the Red X stuff, to my knowledge, is all new to comics. That's all stuff from the Teen Titans cartoon.
Yeah.
And yet, a lot of it in this is, no, Dick Grayson was Red X at some point in the DC universe. So, like, the storyline from the cartoon is a storyline that also happened to Dick Grayson in the DC comic books. We just never knew about it, I guess.
I didn't even know he was Red X in the cartoon.
Yeah, that was the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
But
I knew that Red X was in it.
But Red X
I thought it was Roy.
Red X is a brand new character in Teen Titans Academy. We don't know who it is yet. It's okay. It's very, like, there's a thing that goes around in, like, fan communities online where it's the shorthand is Coffee Shop AU, where it's like your favorite characters from, like, a comic book or a movie or a TV show or, like, some action-packed thing, but they run a coffee shop together and their customers there, and it's all, like, you know, romantic entanglements and misunderstandings and, like, a sitcom sort of thing. So you can have all of your favorite characters, but very low stakes.
Sure.
Everyone's just warm and enjoying each other's company. And even the villains who show up are just like, you know, like Newman on Seinfeld or something.
What's AU?
Alternate universe.
Okay.
So, like, imagine the Avengers, but they run a coffee shop, and Natasha's, like, the harried barista, and, like, Bucky's the slack-off employee or whatever. So it's that sort of stuff where it's like, okay, sure. And that's what Teen Titans Academy kind of feels like, is like, it's all of the Teen Titans and New Titans, basically. And they just hang out and teach kids and have a party. There's like a birthday party in this issue. It's very low stakes. It's very, like, warm in the sense of, if you liked these characters, this is kind of exactly what you want to see. Where it's, you just get to hang out with Beast Boy and Cyborg and Starfire and Nightwing. You know, that's it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the book. And there's these new kids, and they're just kids going to some academy. So it's very much in line with, like, an original New Mutants or, like, a Gotham Academy, where it's like, here it is. This is it. I didn't care for it very much, but I don't have that sort of, like, if I'd come up on the Teen Titans Go cartoon, I'd probably feel a lot differently about it. But as it is, I came up on the original Teen Titans comics, and I've read enough. You know, can the Teen Titans still be friends as adults storylines?
Sure.
It's fine. I'm all right without it. It doesn't have to be for me.
I read Batman Superman.
Yeah, I did too.
You didn't like it as much as I did. I can tell in your voice.
I thought it was okay.
But will you grant that it's better than you expected?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give you that. I wasn't interested in reading about it until you kind of raved about it. And I'm like, all right, I'll give
it was
a shot.
written by Gene Luen Yang and drawn by Ivan Rice, who I think is one of DC's best artists.
Sure.
And I think there's a point where he definitely was the epitome of the current DC style.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when they stuck him on Bendis' Superman book, that was really the, like, this is our biggest artist working on our biggest signings, biggest book.
I would have said, like, Start of Rebirth was like the point where everyone was trying to be like him.
Okay.
Who was drawing Detective? The James Tynion Detective run?
Oh, golly.
Very much from the same school.
Alvaro Martinez?
Yeah.
Is that? I think that's the same artist who's doing
very similar back then.
The Black Label book.
I think it's fun because it is two alternate reality stories, different time periods, but not actual time periods.
Yeah, it's made up stuff. Like, that was the thing that when I'd read the initial solicit, I thought this was going to be like we're going to do like a 1930s Batman and Superman, and then a 1940s and the 1950s. And it's really not that. Like, they're doing something else entirely, which is sort of interesting. I thought the kind of top and bottom artwork conceit, they do some interesting stuff with it later in the story, but the first half of it was kind of getting a little dull to me.
Let me ask, how did you read it?
Oh, I just read it page to page. Yeah.
See, I did Superman first.
Oh, no.
Then went back and did Batman.
Because there's stuff that's, like, rhyming. Like, there's the way it's laid out, like, there's stuff that's happening in the top portion.
Oh no, I catch that as I went through it.
Okay.
But I went straight story. I think that maybe made it for a better experience for me.
Maybe. I mean, people can try that at home if they pick up Batman Superman this week. Harley Quinn #1.
Okay.
Did you read it?
No.
It's okay.
I didn't like Future State.
This is better than Future State.
Okay. And I'm not... I like Riley Rossmo on specific things.
Okay.
And I don't think this is one of those things.
Yeah, this is very Riley Rossmo.
Yeah.
I like Riley Rossmo, and there were a few things design-wise in this where I'm like, maybe too much.
Yeah.
But there's some really insanely good page designs that he does, because he'll just screw around with stuff. And that sort of like adventurousness is nice to see. Especially, again, when you're looking at a lot of artists where it's just like, I mean, and I don't mean this as an insult or to either guy. I mean this as a compliment to both of them. It's kind of the polar opposite of what Bruno Redondo's doing.
Okay.
Where it's just like, let's just make each page kind of insane a little bit because it's Harley Quinn and it should be a little insane. While the Bruno Redondo stuff is like, let's make this as grounded and as like immersive as we can by just getting you into like the world of it. While Harley Quinn is, let's constantly have you reevaluating what you're looking at because it's Harley Quinn and you can't really trust anything she's saying. I liked it though. It's I'm not ever on the hook for Harley Quinn. Like, that's not really my character.
Yeah, same.
So I'll always try out whatever new creative teams come on just to see what they're doing, to see if it strikes me as particularly good or bad. And I thought this was good. I'm not going to stick with it. It's not for me, but it is good. I would not dissuade anyone from picking it up. There's been a couple Infinite Frontier books so far that we've told people, oh no, you flip through it. Don't buy that. You're not going to like it. And this is not one I would do that with. I thought it was competently done, and certainly I thought an improvement over Future State Harley Quinn. Not least of which because it's just basic Harley Quinn. Like, she's interacting with Batman, and she has her own adventure, and she has her own agenda, and she has a goal that she's trying to achieve, and it makes sense.
I was personally annoyed by the fact it was Harley Quinn who was pitching the book to us in the solicits. I thought that was a conceit that doesn't work. Like,
yeah, DC's constantly treated Harley Quinn like they're Deadpool.
Yeah,
and that's a real Deadpool thing. And I don't know if that's a 1-to-1 thing for those characters. I think that was what I read. I'm sure there was stuff from this past week.
I still have Green Lanterns opened on my desktop. I just haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not either.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, Harley Quinn was one that I was not crazy thrilled about. No pun intended. And I'd found it relatively entertaining.
I have reevaluated all of the DC books that I read. It's like it's changed up dramatically. Oh, Dal, you missed one.
Oh, let's talk about Justice League.
Yeah,
let's talk about Justice League. How did you feel about Justice League, Patrick?
I thought Justice League was fine. I liked it. I'm on board. I'm going with it. I mean, David Marquez and Brian Michael Bendis have been together since Ultimate Spider-Man and then Invincible Iron Man.
Defenders,
and David Marquez is fine.
Yeah, this isn't my favorite stuff.
It's not mine either.
No.
He's not an A-list guy. This is definitely a book more served to people that have read either or both Bendis books previous to this, Superman Action and especially Naomi. It's a very Naomi story.
Yeah, Naomi for sure. The Superman thing though, so he did this.
I know the thing that just is the Aquaman thing is just sticking in your craw.
Oh no, I don't think I even remember what that was. No, the thing I was going to say that bugged me the most is how much of a Bendis Superman fan Green Arrow is all of a sudden.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was it Green Arrow? I thought it was Aquaman who said that.
I remember. Well, I thought it was Green Arrow. I want to say it was a lot of Green Arrow talking to Black Canary.
But that's the exact same point.
Oh God. So
where he's like, I'm glad Clark.
Yeah, really. That's such a great idea. Like, all right, great. No, I get it. So it's just weird to me because Bendis did this huge storyline where Superman reveals his identity as Clark Kent to the world, and that was like the whole second year of Bendis' Superman comics was that bombshell thing that basically no other book referenced because no other writer thought it was that interesting or cared about it or whatever. So you have this thing where, like, in the Superman books, it's no one can stop talking about it, and in every other book, it's like, who cares? So, of course, like, the first Bendis issue of Justice League is, like, page 1 is, like, Green Arrow saying, like, how great it is that Superman did that, and how smart it is, and how interesting it is. And it's like, man, stop selling that idea. It did not work.
He's the liberal.
No one cared.
He has to be that progressive.
We ordered a ton of extra copies because it's like, it's the one where Superman reveals his identity, and we're still stuck with them. Nobody ever cared. No other book wanted to deal with it. literally as soon as Bendis is gone from that company, someone's going to put that genie back in the bottle because there's no extra stories you can tell with it. There's less stories you can tell now. You look at like the Superman Red and Blue, and it's like they're all just Superman and Clark Kent stories. Like they're not telling. No one wants to tell a story where Superman is known to be Clark Kent, except for Brian Bendis. That's literally the only guy in comics who wants to tell that story. So yeah, having Justice League spend a bunch of like Bendis chatter on people debating that concept or like praising it was like, man, come on. Outside of that, it's fine. It's the problem every Bendis team book has, where it's very hard for him to make anyone sound unique. Everybody sounds like everybody else. And it's another Bendis first issue where like, and this is good and bad. It's that Bendis thesis statement thing where like you have to have someone explicitly say something Bendis said in an interview, explaining what the book is going to be about, what issue it's addressing, what question it's trying to answer about that book. Like if anyone read, I don't know if it was in Man of Steel or if they waited until Superman started. But there's a thing where Martian Manhunter goes to Superman and spends what felt like 6,000 words asking Superman why he doesn't do more to make Earth part of the global political system. Like why doesn't Superman just represent Earth to the universe?
Yeah.
If the universe keeps sending stuff to blow up the Earth and the Earth doesn't have a unified response, why doesn't Superman just be that guy? And that is the first year's worth of Superman stories, is Superman going, good point, Martian Manhunter. And it's sort of the same thing in the first Bendis issue of Justice League, where it's someone is like, why don't we do this? And it's like, why don't we do this? And that will be the next 6 to 24 issues is answering that question and changing the book to reflect that reality.
That's right, Excalibur.
Pretty much. The cast is sort of interesting, but they all feel totally random. Like, who's in the book just feels like they started with, oh, here's the characters he wants to write, so they just happen to be there. It's that New Avengers thing of like, oh, what if these characters were just randomly at the raft? Okay, sure.
Here's what I will say about this Justice League run. Mm-hmm. It's the most excited I've been about this Justice League book since it started.
Wow. Okay.
Including when it started.
Wow.
And it started with Scott Snyder and
Jim Chung.
Jim Chung, and then
George Jimenez.
George Jimenez, that's where he came from. Well, after Super Sons.
Yeah.
But like that stuff got way too out there for me.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I'm not worried about this doing that.
I quit that book 20-some issues ago.
Yeah, same. So I'm happy to.
Probably. I forgot how because Snyder stopped and then they kept doing more, and I wasn't reading it then either. I must have quit 40 issues ago.
Yeah, some of the more recent stuff is in trade now, and we're not carrying that.
No one's looking for it.
No.
Someone wants it. We've got all the issues.
But I will definitely keep up with this Bendis Justice League run. Okay. I'm excited for it.
Neat. Yeah.
I hated that cover, though. Oh, that cover was the kind of thing that you give to a news outlet to show as a... Like, every day we'll it's silhouettes of the characters, and every day we'll take one silhouette away and show you who it is. No, that's the covers. I'm in silhouette. But you know who everybody is.
Yeah, there's no surprises. That one's Batman. That one's Superman. That one's Hippolyta, who I don't think shows up in the issue.
That's the only person who's not on the cover. I mean, who's not in the book that's on the cover.
But yeah, it's... I'm interested to hear what other people think of it. It did not work for me in the way that most Bendis stuff for the last year has not worked for me at DC. I have a very low threshold for that guy. And
sure.
As much as I loved his first year's worth of stuff, I very quickly soured on it because it's like, okay, I've gotten my fill of this. Now you're just... It's just too repetitive. I'm too bored with it, I guess. Yeah, I think those were the DC ones that I remember from the last 2 weeks. I don't really recall anything else.
I think that's plenty of them.
Yeah.
There are constant rumors that Nick Spencer is leaving Amazing Spider-Man, which I don't believe because... He's still setting so many things up.
So you were mad about it going weekly in May?
Yeah. No, June.
It's weekly for like 2 months.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
June is the whole chameleon conspiracy or whatever.
Yeah, and it's another thing where it's like multiple issues of Amazing Spider-Man and an oversized one-shot.
Yeah.
And they do the same thing in June. Multiple issues of Spider-Man and then an oversized one-shot.
Right.
It's part of the story.
The June is what I was talking about.
Okay, but May is the same thing. Like, that's the Kingpin stuff with a tablet.
So stupid.
Yep. I mean, this is what they normally would have done, like a summer crossover, because that's usually what they do for Spider-Man, is some sort of weekly Spider-Man event, Hunted or whatever. But they did Last Remains just recently, and so they kind of don't have the bandwidth to do another one just yet, but you're going to get the equivalent of it in Spider-Man issues.
I told this to you, but I'll mention again for everyone else listening. Mm-hmm. If you want to drop Amazing Spider-Man, please tell us.
Sure.
Like, that is a book I will never not buy.
No.
That is my one complete run.
Sure.
But even I'm like, you guys,
there's a lot of comic books. I'm enjoying it though.
And
I
they
like
know
it.
that, and that's why they do it.
I think it's good right now. I like Nick Spencer stuff. As far as him leaving, I mean, I can see him leaving in the next year. The guy will have done probably 75
80 issues. Yeah.
That's a huge run. I mean, Ta-Nehisi Coates' run on Cap is ending at like 30.
Stan and Jack. Stan did more. Stan did 100.
He did. It's true.
Is Ta-Nehisi Coates leaving Cap?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. His last issue is in the next catalog.
I knew he was leaving Black Panther, but I didn't realize he was leaving Cap as well.
He is. He's got a Superman movie to write now.
The point that I was going to make was that my guess for the replacement
for ASM
is Brian Michael Bendis. He's never done adult Spider-Man except for Avengers, and he likes doing it.
It's true.
Sure, he did a year's worth of Ultimate Spider-Man.
One of my favorite things in his Daredevil run, one of my favorite things, and it's such a dumb idea, but it's so perfect and so on point, is the issue where Daredevil's reveal his identity, because that's a Bendis thing. And it's the Marvel Universe reacting to it. He didn't reveal his identity. He was outed by a tabloid. And the Peter Parker reaction to it was, "Oh my God, I always thought it was going to be me." He always thought he was going to be the one outed by the press.
Yeah.
So the idea of like it being Daredevil was both like, "Oh my God, my friend," but also, "Oh my God, what a relief. This is not my life that is going to completely implode now. This is somebody else's." And it was that weird thing of like, yeah, that is how Peter Parker would respond. Like, "Oh God, thank God this didn't happen to me. I mean, I'm sad that it happened to you, but oh my God, I always thought this was going to happen to me." And I like that. I don't know that I would want to read, 80 to 100 issues of that guy. But I like that one Peter Parker idea in Daredevil.
But now that I know a Cap is available, maybe Bendis on Cap.
I don't know. I feel like one of those two books is probably going to be Donny Cates. I feel like. His Venom stuff is over.
Yeah, but
they're going to want to put him on another book.
He's way too cosmic for those characters.
But I mean, he's not. I mean, like I think with King in Black, like that's kind of the end of his cosmic stuff. I mean, obviously Thor still has more to go, but like he'll have been doing cosmic stuff for a number of years now, and it's probably the point where he'd be like, "I just want to tell a story about Captain America and like the country, or I want to tell an Amazing Spider-Man story that gets to be fun." Like, I can see both of those being a nice reaction for a guy who's been doing incredibly dark stuff and incredibly like difficult material in the sense of like how complicated it is to produce. Like something where it's just like, what if Cap just fights like Ultimatum? Like, let's just do that. Although Ultimatum's a different guy now, so never mind.
True.
They might also show up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't know. I haven't watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 1.
Right?
Don't know who's showing up in that. A lot of rumors about different characters like Flag Smasher and U.S. Agent, guys like that. So
one of the saddest things I read today was from Ed Brubaker.
Oh, I read that too.
Yeah.
What a bummer.
Yeah.
I feel for that guy. Do you want to describe it?
Yeah, basically he was saying that
in his newsletter that he sent out to fans,
that he was excited that it was coming out, and he's always had a good experience with the people from Marvel Studios, everybody from the bottom to the top. Kevin Feige's always been great, but this is bittersweet because he and Steve Epting created the Winter Soldier. Like, they didn't create Bucky Barnes.
No.
But this is their character, their story, like the whole identity of this character and his backstory. They created
everything
in the pages of Captain America.
Everything post Avengers issue 4 from the 1960s.
Yeah,
they created.
Yeah, and the most they've gotten is a hey, thanks.
Yeah, and I mean he's pretty straightforward with like, hey, work for hire is work for hire, and but you can eventually feel at a certain point of like, man, this wasn't just like some gig. This was something that I worked really hard on, and it turned into something incredibly valuable for a major company that is doing the absolute bare minimum of what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, and he does a great job of looking at it as the pot half full, or the glass half full.
Glass half full, yeah.
Yeah, where he's like, that brought a lot of new eyeballs onto my work, and maybe I wouldn't have been able to do all this creator-owned stuff if it wasn't for that. So
I mean, Criminal only really happened because of stuff like that.
Yeah.
In a sense, like his popularity on Captain America made things like, you know, Criminal and Incognito, and then
but the
then
point
brought
is,
those
his
people
talent
to
was
Fatale
already
and so
there.
on.
It's just
Sure, but plenty
you
of
get more exposure.
Oh my god, but plenty of talented people don't get anywhere near the career that Ed Brubaker had. And it's I mean, there's no disguising the fact that it's because of a lot of his fans came to him through his Captain America stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we were on it since Peep Show, but that's a whole different thing.
That's true.
Low Life? Low Life. Peep Show is something else.
Joe Matt.
Yeah. Low Life was
Low
Ed
Life,
Brubaker's.
Yeah.
Clearly, I don't know what I'm talking about.
I've been a fan of his since the fall that he did with Eric Shanower
Oh, yeah.
for Dark Horse Presents.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a really good short story.
But of course, and he thinks it's great that people love the ship Bucky and Steve.
Sure.
Although that's over with. It's all Sam and Bucky now.
I don't know. Maybe not.
Nope, it's all.
We'll see. I mean, at this point, it's too buddy cop. Like, maybe they hate each other enough where I can see something there romantically, but maybe they just hate each other.
I was talking to Alexis for a bit today, and we always talk Supernatural because she's about a season ahead of me, a little more now because she watches it a little faster.
Sure.
So she's my go-to to talk about it, but she has other friends, and I believe more online talking about it. But they have such specific ways they refer to people. She calls characters by different names.
Oh.
So when
Like
she's
nicknames and stuff?
describing, describing a thing that happens next season, and I go, I don't know who that character is. She's like, oh no, that's Castiel. That's what I call him.
Yeah. No, I do that for some characters from fandoms that I'm in, where if I don't remember their name and I come up with something else as a shorthand, sometimes the shorthand sticks longer. Like there's not to make this a Kamen Rider thing, but I'll be brief. There's a character from Kamen Rider Ryuki whose name is Tetsuya, and his hero name is Raya.
Shouldn't it be Akira?
But it would be, but in America,
I know.
just say
I know.
that.
I was making a joke.
But the first time, like you see him in a few episodes before you hear his name, either one of his civilian name or his hero name, and the first few times you see him, he's doing like divination and he uses these quarters. So I kept calling him Kamen Rider Quarters.
Okay.
And now that's all I think of him as.
What,
I have to keep reminding myself, no, that's not his name. That's just a nickname I gave him.
At the risk of hating myself for asking this,
I'll be brief.
What do you mean doing divination with quarters?
So he's basically like a fortune teller.
Okay.
And the first few times you see him, he's doing different kinds of like street fortune telling, and he'll keep
Four
using
quarters. No.
Well, he'll use different tools. Like he might do some of it's like more Asian mysticism than what we would be familiar with in the U.S.
Okay.
Where it's different kinds of things. You burn different things, and how that the ashes fall. You can read into that. So it's divination where you're just reading someone's future. But
like instead of tarot cards, he's using coins.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, where he spins them or they fall in different
I thought you
ways.
meant he was doing it. People would pay him in quarters.
No, he would literally use quarters. In one of his first appearances, he would be spinning a quarter or flipping a quarter or something. I can't remember.
Is it actual quarters or just Japanese currency?
No, I think it was an actual quarter.
Okay.
Maybe it was
Thank you
like
for being brief with your
sure.
explanation.
It might have been a yen piece, but I think in my mind I'm just like it's just a quarter. It's just used as quarters.
Sure.
So no, I mean I get that idea of in a fandom sometimes people get nicknames or they get shorthands or whatever. Especially because again, like if it's a character where they're introduced in a mysterious way, like you know, you might know them because of the larger culture as somebody or something, but in the movie or the TV show, it might be a while before you get to that point. So sometimes you just need something to call somebody, like Cigarette Smoking Man from X-Files.
Yeah.
Where for a long time he was just a background guy. He didn't have a name. He wasn't anybody. And so they had to call him Cigarette Smoking Man. And I think even in the show eventually they used some version of that, but they were not as into that acronym or that shorthand as the fans were. But yeah, the internet community had to come up with some name for him, so people in text would know who you're talking about. Do you think you're going to start calling Castiel by Alexis's nickname?
No, because I've already forgotten it.
Okay.
But it was like calling him Susan or something.
Oh, okay, sure.
Like it was just a woman's name.
Okay.
Like it wasn't like it wasn't like Cassie or
Sure.
Sissy.
Sure.
It was like, Celeste or something.
Sure.
And like if I were talking to Alexis regularly,
Mm-hmm.
I might adopt it just because
That's how she would know him?
yeah.
Sure.
But no, I don't recall what that was. Plus, Castiel.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easier name to remember, clearly.
There was
They probably say it like 6 times an episode.
this will be the last thing I say about Supernatural. There was a fun episode where the Sam and Dean characters were brought into an alternate reality where they are Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles.
Oh, is this the
filming a show?
the fan convention one, or is this
No,
just
it's a different one.
the different one? Okay.
Where they're actors on a set, which they don't know how to act or
Sure.
what. So basically, like their life is just a TV show in this world that they're in.
Okay, sure.
But they don't know who they don't know their name. Like they're Sam and Dean Winchester still.
Right.
So people start calling them by their names, like Jensen, Jared, and they meet Castiel, who they're like, "Oh my God, Cass, thank you, you're here." It's not. It's Misha Collins. Like, Misha, what are with the names in this place?
That's funny.
Oh, that I thought it was cute.
It's a good gag.
And this was a good podcast. Thank you for listening.
And keep reading comics.
I did all these dramatic hand gestures just to point to Dal.
You did. I hope people experience that vocally with you, where it sounded like you were putting more into it.
I did. I thought I upped it a little bit.
I think so, too.
Yeah, thanks.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.